No.
Bike pedestrian coordinator for, I'm sure I didn't get the title exactly right, but he's my bike guy at ADOT. And he's going to talk about 3 different topics today.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, we'll see how time permits here. But I do want to talk about the U.S. bicycle route system that we've been working on here in Arizona, and we've got an accomplishment to report. Of course, I'm a one-person program at ADOT, so we usually call upon some help in doing these kinds of projects. And fortunately, we had Kimley Horn and Lee Engineering assisting with this project. Thank you, Young. So what is the U.S. bike route system? Well, it's this developing network. And it's the route numbers are designated by the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials. Who has not heard of ASHTO? Oh, good. Oh, no? Okay. Anyway, ASHTO is basically the 50 state DOT directors. And there's a staff. They have a bunch of committees, including a committee that numbers routes, U.S. highways, interstate highways, and now U.S. bicycle routes. So they meet twice a year, and we met with them this past September. Now, the project that's set up by ASHTO requires that it's the state DOT that works with local agencies, organizations to identify the specific routing, determine what routes are more suitable than others. To date, over 11,000 miles in 23 states, and so we're now one of those 23 states. There are 3 guiding documents. There's a purpose and policy statement that ASHTO had developed a number of years ago. It's been amended a couple of times. There is criteria, there's corridor and criteria that have been developed by a task force that ASHTO had set up a number of years ago. And our very own Richard Moore chairs that committee, that national committee. And then there's a corridor plan that had been developed starting, in fact, 10 years ago, I guess it was. Anybody ever been on that bridge over the Colorado River? That's part of US Bike Route 90. There is a separated bike ped bridge over the Colorado River adjoining the I-10 bridge structure. We just did a project out there too to improve the path leading up to the frontage road. Anyway, the policy statement facilitating travel between states, and it could be a road, it could be a street, a path, any type of facility that a bicyclist may ride on. State Route 74 there. Criteria include that it has to connect to 2 or more states. Could be an international border. We don't have that. Or just 2 other U.S. bicycle routes. There is a sign that has been approved for use of a U.S. bicycle route. In fact, here in Arizona, we have approval to use a newer sign that has come out here recently, one that Richard Moore was involved in designing. And then also, ASHTO publishes the Guide for Development of Bicycle Facilities, and that, the intent is to try and get U.S. bike routes on facilities that are, meeting guidelines of ASHTO's guidebook. So the criteria that have been established nationally, first couple of bullets have to do more with the corridor level, connecting destinations, regions, looking at national kind of level area, major metro areas, and in Arizona, we wanted to make sure to connect Phoenix and Tucson. And then we got into some more specific criteria. And it's not just about the roadways, of course, but bicyclists need services along the way. And then, we did spend a lot of time looking at specific roadway characteristics too. Lower traffic relative to other roads, truck traffic, paved shoulders, speeds, and so on. So this is the National Corridor Plan. Of course, you're drawn right away to the bold lines, but down here in the, where's my pointer? Okay. So you've got routes that have been designated in the bold lines, and then undesignated are showing up in the rest of the country. So you can see that it's a pretty good sized system when it's going to be completed. Routes going all the way across country. For example, the one that comes through Arizona here starts in California, and it goes all the way over to St. Augustine, Florida. And kind of zooming in on Arizona, we have 4 corridors in Arizona. In addition to the 90, we have 66, which connects LA with Chicago. And then we have a connector, Phoenix up to the Utah border, and then on up into Reno, Nevada is where it ultimately goes. And then we have also 70, which cuts across the extreme northwest corner of the state. So again, the bold line indicates designated route, the dashed are to be designated. Adventure Cycling Association, of course, they're one of the major advocates behind this system, pushing the system out, and they've been very helpful with us. They've done some surveys, and the profile they've come up with of the bicyclists that would use such a system, highly educated, high income, they're actually spending more dollars than a motoring tourist. They typically stay longer in an area. They support locally owned businesses, less direct impact on the environment, of course. And I know Adventure Cycling has been working very closely with Amtrak and also the bus companies, so there's connections for people that wouldn't necessarily want to ride all the way across the country. But it's what they found is that the demographic, folks that are out there riding these routes, the 50 to 64 demographic accounted for 43% increase in consumer spending. Of course, these people are, people using the system are experienced, competent, law-abiding for the most part, and cyclists. It's not like somebody decides one day, hey, I'm going to go get on my bike and ride across the country. Although I have talked to those kinds of people. They're out there. So here at ADOT, we established a route committee. We included all of our district engineers, ADOT Traffic Division, and of course the Multimodal Planning Division that I'm a part of. We also had our tribal planner on staff because of course these bike routes go through tribal lands. We also had some of our traffic data people. The Arizona Office of Tourism, very interested in this project. They did a webinar for their local tourism agencies while we were in the midst of doing this project, so I was able to participate in that project with them. And then the Department of Public Safety, we had a officer who himself was an experienced bicyclist, been involved in race across America and some other events here in Arizona. I think he's bicycled every state highway over the years. And then our metropolitan planning organizations, MAG, and then our also the rural regional agencies, the Council of Governments. And of course we have representation from you, the users. And again, Adventure Cycling was attended every one of our meetings. They facilitated the calls that we had with adjoining states because we, as some of the states, we had to get concurrence from all road owners and adjoining states. So this is a summary of the tasks that we went through. The committee looked at the given evaluation criteria, refined it. We then pulled out maps and started identifying all possible routes within the corridors, the 4 corridors that AASHTO has designated, and then applied that evaluation criteria to all of the different routes that we identified within those corridors, went out and did field reviews, and then the fun really began. We then reached out to all of the road owners, the local agencies, and the adjoining states. Of course, we had contacted them early on in the process, but then by the time we got to routes proposed by our committee, we took those routes to them. There were some adjustments made here and there. For example, here in the city of Mesa, there were a number of projects that were in the works, not quite ready though. So, we fell back to existing streets, and then we went out and got what AASHTO refers to as concurrence. Oftentimes, that's a resolution from a city council, a county board of supervisors, or in the case of a national park like Petrified Forest, we have a letter from the superintendent. Okay, so this is the map that was submitted to AASHTO as part of our application, and this is the route that they ended up designating, US Bike Route 90 in Arizona. It begins, and they, for some reason, go from east to west. Most bicyclists go from west to east, but anyway, so, whoops. We start down here on State Route 80, Douglas, Bisbee. Of course, we have to go to Tombstone and Sierra Vista, on up in the Tucson metro area, Phoenix metro area, and on over to California, Colorado River crossing there. And here's the route through the Tucson metro area. You were talking about the loop earlier today. I think 28 miles of US Bike Route 90 is on the loop, which that includes the Julian Wash highlighted in yellow here, and then the Santa Cruz River path farther north. In the Phoenix metro area, coming in out here by US 60, Florence Junction, on up into Apache Junction, and out northwest, following Arizona Canal for much of its length. So that's the one that was designated. Adventure Cycling has this relationship with the Open Streets people, and they've already mapped out US Route 90. And there's this really neat interactive map, and I just did a screenshot here of, this is in the Bisbee area, what we ended up doing here, and this was a lot of help from advocates down in Cochise County. The county itself was in the process of rehabilitating the old US 80. Okay, here's the tunnel. Right, the tunnel just north of Bisbee, and as that road was being rehabbed, decision was made, hey, forget the tunnel, let's just do the old road. Yeah, a little bit of climbing, but so you go up and over the tunnel. But anyway, this is really a neat map because you can zoom right in the entire route, the entire system, not just our Bike Route 90, the entire US system. The other requirement of the application by AASHTO was the turn-by-turn directions. So, here we start, again, going from east to west, State Route 80. And so, for each turn, we've got the mileage, what the turn is, the direction, and so on. Now, again, Cochise County, they had recommended, so we took them up on it, that there be a Bisbee bypass. Of course, everybody's going to want to go to Bisbee, but if you don't want to do the climbing through the Mule Mountains, then there is this bypass route here on the flatlands that connects basically Douglas to Tombstone. Anyway, so this goes all the way over to the California border. And here's our list of supporters. all the agencies that gave us concurrence on US Bike Route 90. Several people are either in the room or were here earlier. So it includes several agencies here in the Phoenix area, of course, and Maricopa County, the Flood Control District, Salt River Project, and so on. Okay, routes that did not get designated yet. We don't have concurrence for all of the agencies along the proposed Route 66. We don't have concurrence from Mojave County for the Oatman Road, which was an old alignment of the US Route 66. And we did not get concurrence from Yavapai County. They have a section of historic Route 66, well, both east and west of Seligman. And this piece over here, Apache County, this wasn't a big deal, really. There's a frontage road over here that at some point in time ADOT had transferred to the county. And we could easily run cyclists along the shoulders of I-40. And of course, in Arizona, bicyclists are allowed by state traffic engineer guideline to use the shoulders of I-40 from border to border. And then for 79, that route that connects Phoenix with the Utah border, we did not get concurrence, again, from Yavapai County. Now, this kind of interesting story, we originally were proposing Willow Creek Road as the route. However, City of Prescott said, whoa, wait a minute, let us look at that. So they spent several months. The City Council appointed a committee to look at the issue. The committee met and then came up with a decision. It included some routing that would tie in with Yavapai County, but we have yet to get concurrence from Yavapai County. We do have the resolution from the City of Prescott, though, that came in October, a month after we had met with AASHTO. And we did not get concurrence from Grand Canyon National Park. Of course, we have 64 into the park and coming out of the park, but Desert View Drive is theirs, and we don't have concurrence from the superintendent just yet. Now 70, we decided early on when we talked to Utah and Nevada, well, they really weren't even thinking about US bike routes, so we didn't pursue it. However, while we were working on US bike routes, Utah DOT went ahead and designated a routing connecting Colorado with Nevada, it's actually a combination of bike routes 70 and 79. And we do now have a letter of concurrence from Utah, though, on the bike route 79. And of course, this route would follow the old state highway prior to I-15, and that's Mojave County. So we'll need to continue to work with them. As I said, that's what we're still pursuing and continuing our talks with Nevada. Nevada is still trying to figure out 70 through the Las Vegas area, but we've been working on a promotion plan, which includes updating our Cycle Arizona bicycle user map of the state highway system. So we'll make sure to get US Bike Route 90 on that map. There's going to be various printed electronic maps going on out there. With the Cycle Arizona map, we'll be doing an interactive map as well, not just the print map, PDF that we have on our website. Signing, all jurisdictions on US Bike Route 90 can put up signs. And there's the interim approval route marker sign. Manual of uniform traffic control devices. It's the law of the land here in Arizona. Media and outreach. We had great cooperation with ADOT Communications. They blogged about 90. They did a video about 90. They interviewed people about 90. It's out there on the ADOT website. And just recently, they created a Flickr album, US Bike Route 90, Arizona. And of course, within ADOT then, I continue to work with our engineers and planners And I'm happy to report that when we updated our rumble strip policy, it now actually says that we will check to make sure if this highway where we're proposing rumble strips is on a US bike route. That's going to be a consideration, and it's already come into play. State Route 80 in the Bisbee area, there was a pavement preservation project that called for rumble strips, and they're not there. Partly because we said, hey, we got a US bike route, and then we also went back to look at the crash data, and it wasn't showing up as it had before as part of our roadway departure safety implementation plan. So, and then down on 82, that's a separate project, not part of the US bike route system, but the rumble strip policy came into play there as well. So that's the US bike route system. Any question? And by the way, that's our website, and it's the whole project is item number 1 on the main page of our website, including the link to that interactive map. Yes.
Can you go a little bit more into detail about what is concurrence and why stakeholders would withhold it? Like, say, for instance, the Grand Canyon, I would think having bike tourists go through there would be
Yes.
a strong plus, not something.
Superintendent said yes. We see fully loaded bicyclists coming through the canyon every day. They mentioned safety. They mentioned just concerns about them giving a blessing to a roadway that they didn't feel would accommodate bicyclists. Without shoulders or without a joining path.
Okay. So concurrence is then just buy-in from that either stakeholder or property owner?
From the road owner, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, right. And so, like I said, usually it was a resolution from the city council. But yes, they had to buy into it. Now, there were a number of communities that were on board right away. I mean, they understood the economic impacts to their community. Petrified Forest Superintendent, he was on board right away. I think he was the first concurrence. Yes.
In Cochise County from Sierra Vista to Tucson, we worked with the county to get that road higher on the schedule for upgrading. Well, the other roads in Cochise County are ADOT owned. So how do I get them to bubble up those roads, because they do need upgrading for.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Tom, on that Cochise County road, because, it worked out fine. And, Larry Kircher with the city of Apache Junction, they were doing a project just as we were talking US bike routes, Apache Trail. Well, let's continue to talk to Bill Harmon. Bill's our guy, the district engineer.
We've been rescheduled Tucson. Sierra Vista is not part of Tucson. You didn't know that? And it's part of Tucson.
No, I'm aware of, yeah, there's the districts have been redrawn, yes, but part of what you're talking about is still Southeast District, Bill Harmon, and then part would be Tucson District. But yeah, I mean, that's the key, the district engineer, working with them. What I do is constantly looking at upcoming projects, seeing if we can't, do an add-on. Of course, there are a number of safety projects out there we've done, and Kelly has all the details on this. A number of shoulder widening projects using safety funds over the past 3 years.
So there's safety funds to be used for shoulders.
Oh, yeah. Where are we at? Yes, yes.
One, do you have any numbers in terms of how many bicyclists are crossing Arizona State, let's say per year, using road trips?
No, I don't, but guess what? That's one of my next projects. I want to establish a statewide bicycle pedestrian counting program. That's another story. Well, what adventure cycling tells me is that, and I don't know that they've got real hard data on this, but you know, as we went out to get concurrences, for example, in Tombstone, they mixed up a GABA ride, you know, where they had a SAG stop there in Tombstone, and literally hundreds of bicycles were coming through on a Saturday. They thought, oh my God, US bike route, hundreds of bicycles every day. No, we had to clarify that. Anyway, adventure cycling tells me that once designated, it may mean 10 additional bicyclists a day. But no, you know, that's, we don't have data on, you know, the numbers of people out there bicycling. I sort of track inquiries. You know, earlier in the week, I had a couple from Switzerland coming to Arizona to do a tour. You know, that happens frequently. You know, I get a lot of calls from people coming to Arizona to ride their bikes. But we don't have any data yet. But now that we have Bike Route 90 designated, I think my director is going to move forward with getting us to establish a counting program, and we would certainly have counters out there on 90, among other places. I mean, adventure cycling, I've seen some data where they've actually mapped out, you know, places where people have purchased adventure cycling maps as an indicator, but that's about it. But they're out there for sure. I mean, I had a couple screenshots from the ADOT photo log as part of the presentation. I just happened to catch, you saw it, cross-country bicyclists. Yes.
Do you know if there'll be any work like chambers of commerce or whatever to let businesses along these routes know, you know, to bring to attention of the businesses that this is a bicycle route?
Well, you know, I mentioned the webinar that Office of Tourism had done earlier, and you know, we're going to continue to work with tourism. We would hope that they will show US Bike Route 90 on their state map, which of course is the only, other than our Cycle Arizona Bicycle User Map, the Arizona Office of Tourism state map, state highway map, is the only other state highway map out there. But you know, I mean, they're very interested in the project. They have continued to communicate with their local tourism offices. So yeah, I mean, we're just getting underway. We hope to do, there'll be a lot more promotion. I heard from a bed and breakfast the other day, you know, the question had more to do with when are you going to improve the road, but they're aware of the route, you know, and they cater to bicyclists, and so we'll continue to get the word out, yes.
Are there minimum design standards for a segment to be included on a route? I mean, I'm thinking like a loop would be accessible to anybody, but I imagine there are areas that would be dicier.
Well, you know, AASHTO in their guidelines, you know, again, it's up to the state DOTs, and the preference, of course, is to roads that are more comfortable for bicycling. And so that was part of our evaluation criteria. You know, pathways would score higher than roads with no shoulders, that kind of thing. But, I mean, there's no standard that you can't designate a US bike road on this road if it doesn't meet certain criteria. Now, of course, we heard from some local agencies, well, no, you know, we don't think that's a route to use. It's, you know, 2 12-foot travel lanes, no shoulders. We would prefer that you use another route. You know, so we heard that, but there's no standards, no. It's, you know, what route is more suitable than another is how AASHTO words it. And follow our guidelines as much as possible. Now, of course, their guidelines, it's interesting, in the 2012 edition, they make one reference to US bicycle routes in the AASHTO Guide for the Development of Bicycle Facilities, and it's up on, it's in Chapter 4 on road facilities, under the section on shared roadways. But it specifically mentions that a US bike route on a rural, low-volume road may be a perfect candidate for a US bike route. Now, we don't have the advantage here in Arizona that some of the states back east do with, paved farm-to-market road systems. So, in some cases, Bike Route 66, there aren't too many options along that corridor in Arizona.
Well, so that's kind of the point, isn't it, that if you set minimum standards for a coast-to-coast bike route, some point along that route wouldn't be able to meet some definite standard other than this is what the state agencies or whatever those subgroups feel is the best route through there.
Right, I think with Bike Route 90, in the southeast part of the state, it's where we had the highest number of options to work with. Actually, New Mexico DOT didn't like our route. They agreed on the connection, but they want to use New Mexico 78, Arizona 78. You ever been on 78 in New Mexico? Oh, that's probably the steepest climb in the state. I don't know a bunch of switchbacks, but they wanted 78. They agreed to 80, but they feel like, oh well, the bicyclist is going to go cut across to El Paso on New Mexico 9. But so the other thing is though, we can make adjustments. I mentioned here in the city of Mesa, there are a couple of path projects that are going to be completed here pretty soon. Is Jim in the room? He was working on those as we were developing Bike Route 90. They weren't going to be done though by September of 2015. So, we can make adjustments when these certain projects get done. We're going to go back and make adjustments and go back to AASHTO and say, hey, we want to change the route here.
Mike?
Yes.
Right here. I'm gonna have to ask that we hold more questions on this topic until you're done with your other topics, so that we can get through everything.
No, I know that the time,
Let people